So I think the good news is we are only one step away from dinner, and I will promise it will be a short step too. But let me start by congratulating Benno Verlen and Thiago Pinto and also Falk Witte and all the others for putting together this truly impressive and also truly global I think it's a really truly global event and conference, and I think we need it more than ever, that's for sure, and we've heard it in many of the speeches already. And of course, congratulations on putting together the Jena Declaration. I really believe we need that too, and we do not just, of course, need the declaration, but we somehow need to live by it, right, and make it effective and efficient all over the world. And I want to, the point I want to make is that I'm deeply convinced that it is not enough to simply improve a bit the technologies, right? Come up with green technologies and have better education and raise a little more awareness with respect to environmental questions and sustainability. I believe we really need a revolution in the deepest sense conceivable. We really, that's my conviction, right, and the point I want to make. We need a revolution in the mode of existence, in the mode of being in the world and to the world. And of course, you can always ask the question, who are we? I grant you that point, right? But I'm speaking of the dominant mode of living in the world, right? Of living in the world and towards the world, right? And of course, it's a mode of which has a history of colonization, imperialism, capitalist exploitation, and so on. But I think the result of it is what I call a mode of aggression. I believe the way we relate to the world, right? What I try to do is coming up with a sociology of our relationship to the world, right? Of the mode of relating, being in the world and being to the world. And my claim is right now we have almost on a global level, we have really enacted, institutionalized a mode of aggression. You see it in 3 dimensions. Actually, you see it on many dimensions, but we can think of 3 dimensions. One is the environmental dimension, right? The ecosphere, so to speak. We live in aggression towards nature, right? You see it in the extractive industries, right? Taking all the raw materials from Earth in a very harmful way, and in the polluting industries, so to speak. So if you look at the way we the humans relate to Earth, to life, to the world, it's a mode of aggression. When you look to the middle level, I would say, right, you see it here, it has been mentioned before, we live in a mode of war again, right? Competition and aggression between nations, between people has come back. I believe that's no chance. It depends on the way we have institutionalized life, on our mode of relating to the world. This leads to aggression on the social level. Not just directly in war. There's an interesting study by the London School of Economics, Michael Bruter, who really analyzed political culture actually all over the world. He started mainly with democratic cultures, and he sees that aggression towards those who have other opinions increases all over the world, right? Like the Republicans in the US hating the liberals, the Brexiteers in England hating the Remainers, or those for vaccination in Germany hate those who are against vaccination. It's no longer that we consider those who have different opinions, beliefs, and ways of living or loving as different, but as hindrances towards the way we want to live. And we see the mode of aggression in the way we deal with ourselves. I mean, when you look at the WHO, the World Health Organization's report, you clearly see that burnout and stress and anxiety-related diseases are on the rise at increasing numbers, right? It's auto-aggression. Permanently, we have to improve ourselves, to optimize ourselves. So we are heating up the atmosphere and burning out the soul, if you so like, right? So something is fundamentally wrong, and I think it's not enough to somehow become a little more aware of this, of the sustainability question. So the question is, where does this mode of aggression come from? And I believe it has not just a culture. It depends on what you mean by culture, right? I will end in a second by this, but it also has a structural side, what I call the mode of dynamic stabilization, and of course, because the Club of Rome has exactly pointed to this more than 50 years ago, right? Or 50 years ago. A capitalist society in particular, but I believe it's not just capitalism. It's also the way we organize science and our whole social systems, right? They live in a mode of, or they operate in a mode of dynamic stabilization. We permanently have to achieve growth, acceleration, innovation. Digitalization is just last, so to speak, the last mode of achieving this. But a modern economy has to permanently achieve growth, innovation, acceleration, has to optimize along all parameters to sustain what we have. I mean, if you look at the so-called developed world, I mean, of course, the question is, what is development, right? But if you look at the so-called developed world, you really see that there has been a fundamental shift. People no longer claim that we work hard and try to achieve growth and so on in order for our kids to have a better life. Right? Now the dominant mood is we have to run faster and faster every year to achieve growth and innovations to stay where we are, right? For the kids to not fall down in some sort of abyss. So the mode of dynamic stabilization, right, is an institutionalized mode of aggression towards the world on all levels of our existence. And it goes together with a certain conception of development, right, and of well-being. And this is what I call the AAA conception of the good life. And I mean with this, the idea that to expand the horizon of what is available to us with satellites, with microscopes, for example, what is accessible and attainable through economic growth, through better technologies, through whatever it is, right? That this is what defines development and the good life. Pushing the horizon of what we can do, of what we can know, of what we can see. And I don't have the time to go into this. I've written a book of 900 pages on this. It's called Resonance, right? And it's exactly the idea of attunement, right, which you were talking about, right? I call what you call attunement, I call resonance, because for me it's important that resonance does not mean that we all have the same sounds, right? It's a responsive resonance. So my idea is we do all know, by being human beings, we know a different mode of relating to the world, of relating to each other, of relating to ourselves, and certainly of relating to nature, right? And this is what I call resonance, being affected by something, listening, right? And responding to it, right? So this is the basic, it's a process, it's a relationship. Of course, the relationship comes first. It's the relationship of listening and responding, or I call it affection and self-efficacy or response. And this has always a transformative consequence. We don't stay the same in this process. So it's very close to our conceptions of education. So I'm very happy that in the Jena Declaration and in all the UNESCO chairs here, education plays such an important role. So we do have the resources, and we even have the cultural resources, particularly outside the Western cultures, I would say, right, of living resonance in different modes and in different cultures and in different contexts. And if we use this idea and this very conference right here to somehow come up with innovative institutions, but also with innovative cultural ideas of making the world more resonant and less aggressive, we maybe could do at least a tiny step towards a better world. Thanks a lot.